We can talk about it.
Hey, welcome to the first episode of Alfatron Chats. I'm Noel from Alfatron Electronics, and with me in studio today, Spencer Thomas. Spencer,
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and welcome to one of the first episodes of many.
Absolutely many,
Yep.
yes. Spencer, thanks for joining us. In this episode today, we will be discussing the ins and outs of PTZ cameras as well as the technologies inside them. But before we begin, Spencer, please tell us, what is a PTZ camera and what kinds of PTZ cameras are out there?
Okay. So PTZ camera, as it stands, is a pan tilt zoom camera. So you've got the normal static camera, which obviously does not move up and down and zoom in and out or whatever the case is. So in terms of these cameras, it's a, as I say, pan tilt zoom camera, which is automatically driven from the camera itself over software or whatever the case is. And you could use these all over the place. Why you would need them for, let's say, a little bit of a bigger size boardroom where you've got a really long table and you want to sort of catch the guys at the back, but then also you want to bring it into a wide angle picture for the guys in the front or the entire room or whatever the case is. Capturing different people or different spaces, like on a church stage, for example. The choir on this side, somebody else on this side playing the organ or whatever the case is. So you can sort of manipulate it, move it from left to right, zoom it in, zoom it out, all those kind of things. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, great. So I'm actually keen to sort of find out, how would we work out what type of PTZ camera to use, let's say, in a boardroom space, as an example? How would we work out what type we would need? I mean, would we need like a 3x cam or a 5x, or how do we look at those sort of specs to say at the end of the day, okay, well, this is the camera you need, and this is what will work in your boardroom?
Okay, so there's a couple of different things that go into it. Obviously, the size of the boardroom would matter, first of all.
Okay.
So obviously, if it's a short, wide boardroom, you would go with a smaller X version of the camera. If it's a longer, thinner boardroom, you would go for a longer or a bigger, higher X. So we start off, I think, on 3Xs.
Okay.
Then we go to 5X, we go to 10X, 12X, 20X, 30X. So 30X is big. I mean, that's for huge rooms or whatever the case is. You wouldn't necessarily put that into a boardroom environment because, I mean, that's some people do, depending on how close you want to get to the people at the back of the room or whatever the case is. And depending on the type of environment that they want to use as well, we've got different types of cameras. So you've got a camera with an HDMI connection, you've got a camera with USB connections, you've got an SDI camera, and then the newer technology, which is the NDI version of cameras, which is networkable based. So it all depends on the environment and how these guys want to bring the cameras into their call or into the environment, basically. So if you're looking at like a training center, conferencing center, whatever the case is, where you've got sort of one or two cameras up, and let's say they're doing a VC call,
Yeah.
you might bring that into some kind of an HDMI switcher or an SDI switcher, which has a USB output, which will go into a PC, which will go into the Zoom call. If you're looking at, again, conferencing sort of venues where you've got a guy speaking and the camera is on him so that obviously the people right at the back can see him on the big screen, which will be like an HDMI connection as well, or an NDI connection, because you can all run that all over network cable, bring it into the software that's obviously managing the conference or whatever the case is. And then obviously the smaller boardrooms where a USB connection from the camera extended up into the table, into the laptop, to give you your ability to bring the camera into the Zoom call, or Teams
Nice.
call.
Okay, so there's
So
not
yeah.
really any set sort of formula to work out what sort of camera to use in a given space, right? You kind of just have to sort of play it by ear kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, so in terms of the type of camera,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not, because it obviously depends on what they want.
Okay.
But in terms of if you talk about a formula, so what we have like on the camera's web page, we've got a camera calculator. So we've got all the different X versions or optical X versions of the cameras, and you give the object distance basically.
Oh,
So,
right.
for example, if this camera is, let's say, 5 meters away,
Yeah.
or at the beginning of the room, and the person that you want to have as the object is 3 meters away or 2 meters away or whatever the case is, you can type that information in, and it'll give you a wide or a tele, which is obviously all the way zoomed in, or a wide, which is zoomed out,
Right.
sort of distance.
Okay.
So it'll give you a 16 by 9 sort of calculation. So I don't know, just for an example, if you've got a 5x and you want to do 3 meters away or whatever the case is on full tele, it's going to give you a picture of, let's say, our face. So it'll be like a 0.5 meter by 300,
Yes.
for example.
Mm-hmm.
If it's full zoomed, which is right back on wide, it'll give you a 2.5 meter or a 3 meter by 1.8 meter or something like that.
Oh, right.
So there's a little bit of a calculation involved there
Okay.
to get that right, because different cameras with the different X value has different degrees on it. So
Oh, okay.
you got a 5x that has a certain degree, a 10x, a 12x.
Is this the field of view?
Yeah, the
degrees?
field of view degree,
Okay.
basically.
All right.
So with working out that degree
Mhm.
and your distance of your object, you can sort of get an image size that you'll know. So
Oh,
yeah, on a stage, for example, if you want to go and see the whole stage, which is a 12-meter stage, for example,
mhm.
and you've got a 30x, 25, 30 meters away, or whatever the case is, you can kind of work out that calculation, and you can see on wide how much of the stage you'll get and how much you'll get on full tele or half tele. You can work it out, kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, there's a little calculation there that we've done for the guys,
Okay,
and
so
you can work it out.
fantastic. So what we'll do, guys, is we'll drop that link in the comments so you guys can check it out later. Okay,
yeah.
is this something that we did, or is it? Just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
general
it's a camera calculation that the tech guys we put together.
We did it.
Yeah,
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool.
as Alfatron. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a little calculation. It's a very basic little Excel spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy, but it gives you the right calculation for our cameras in those distances.
Wonderful. More free stuff from Alfatron, guys. Lovely. So
Yeah.
I also want to find out quickly as well, Spencer, when these cameras have been installed, is there sort of like any software that needs to be used, or is it plug and play, or how do we get the
Okay.
camera to work?
So look, a lot of the times plug and play, but if you want to kind of control the camera in the environment, firstly there's a remote in the box. If you're close enough, like we are to this camera, we can kind of have little presets set up on the remote.
Right.
And you press preset 1 or 2 or 3, and it'll move it around the room or whatever the case is.
Okay.
On most of our cameras, other than the entry-level PTZ cameras, is there an IP port on the unit,
Nice.
which you can go into the IP address of the unit, and it's got a preview interface with a little sort of like digital management console.
Okay.
Allows you to go left, right, up, down, save some presets, whatever the case is. So you can adjust it that way as well.
Okay.
Other way of doing it, once it's installed and it's got all the cables connected up, either RS-232 cable for the tech guys, or the IP cable for the tech guys as well. You can bring that back to the sort of desk wherever you're getting everything controlled from. And we have what we call camera controllers. So we have an IP controller and a RS controller. And that allows you to pick up all the cameras, select the camera you want, move the joystick up, down, left, right, whatever the case is, and you can obviously see the preview screen for the camera, and you can see where it's going around the room.
Nice.
So yeah, there's kind of different ways of doing it. And then obviously, I mean, the last would be in a boardroom environment, you'd have a third-party device driver,
Mm-hmm.
which will allow you to send commands to the camera by a touch of a button on a touch screen or something like that, or sort of a semi-voice automated system as well, because these are not voice activated. So you can set up presets aligning up with, let's say, the DSP in the room's microphones in the room. And then obviously once microphone 1 or 2 or 3 is activated, it can send it a preset to go to preset 1 or 2 or 3 and
Nice.
move it around the room. So yeah, there's
Nice.
multiple different ways of how to control it once it's
Plenty
installed.
ways to skin a cat, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks for that, Spencer. So you mentioned earlier that there are many kinds of PTZ cameras that all adopt certain protocols and technologies. You mentioned
Yep.
HDMI, SDI, NDI. Okay, so can we please go through some of these technologies just very briefly that you and I will find on our range of Alfatron PTZ cameras?
Okay. So if we go right from the beginning, we've got the standard entry-level cameras, which is a USB 2 adaptation on the back.
Okay.
So standard PTZ camera, 3x, 5x, 10x, which has a USB 2 connection that you can kind of plug straight into a PC and manipulate it, control it, do whatever you want, and bring that into a Teams or Zoom call. One up from there, we have what we call the dash cam range,
Yes.
which is also USB, but it's got a USB 2 and 3 on the back, so whichever one you want to use. And it's also got an HDMI output, so you can take that to a switcher or whatever the case is for the guy that's got a console that's got multiple cameras and whatever.
Okay.
Then we'd go from there, we'd go to what they call an SDI camera, so
Yes.
3G SDI. So that's like a coax cable. This, in terms of these type of cameras and cameras around for a long time, that's the legacy connection. The SDI is legacy. It's been around for years.
Okay. All right.
Different types of SDI, 3G, 6G, 12G, different resolutions as well. We do 3G SDI, which is a 1080p 60 resolution.
Nice.
And yeah, that again would also go back to a switcher. So what they would call a switcher with SDI inputs, multiple cameras. The guy can control it, fade it, switch it, whatever the case is, and push it into the room.
Cool.
That also has a USB 3 connection on. So if you're close enough, or you can extend that USB 3 connection, you can bring that SDI camera into your PC or your laptop for broadcast softwares, different broadcast softwares. And it's also got an HDMI on it as well. The nice thing with all our cameras, and especially these ones, is that the SDI, USB 3, and HDMI all send out the same physical signal at the same time.
Oh, right.
So not
Okay.
one or the other. They all send out the same signal at the same time.
So you just choose what interface you want to
Yeah,
use.
and you
USB,
just choose.
HDMI.
So what the guys would do is, let's say there's an SDI camera close enough, they'll put the SDI straight through to the switcher. The HDMI will maybe go to a monitor where the guy is controlling, so you can have a look and see what's happening.
Oh, right.
And then the USB connection can go into the guy's PC, which is the video mixer guy, which is sending it out to a YouTube stream like we're doing right now.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're using the 10x or the 5x dash cam,
Uh-huh.
and we've just got a USB 3 cable straight into the PC, running our broadcast software, and pushing that out to YouTube.
Awesome.
And that's it.
That is so easy. See, guys, we're actually using our own product in
Yeah.
these streams.
Yeah. And then what we call, it's not the new kid on the block, but it's been around less than most, especially in sort of the AV world, is the NDI HX format.
Oh, right.
So
yes.
NDI HX is just a normal RJ45 LAN connection cable. You plug it into the back of the guy. It's power, it's control, it's video. If you've got an audio input into the camera as well, it'll bring your audio back on that same stream as well.
All over CAT.
All over CAT. So it's all on the local network.
Nice.
You would bring that in again into your broadcasting software. There's Teams and Zoom at this stage. You've got a connection for that as well. So you can bring your NDI camera into your Teams or Zoom call as well. And then push it out to wherever you want. So NDI it's a great technology. We say it's new, but it's been around for a long time. So NDI itself is a broadcast quality technology.
All right.
But what most of the cameras like we use is called NDI HX. So it's the same stream or whatever you can call it, but it's a compressed version of that stream. So it's a H.264 stream.
Cool.
And they did it so well that they've actually taken, let's say the original NDR stream is whatever it was, 100 megabits or whatever the case is, and they've compressed it correctly down to 15, 20, 30 megabits per second.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they've really done their job well there in compressing it correctly.
And it looks the same and it
Yeah.
sounds the same. There's
Yeah.
no stutter or anything like that.
100%.
Wow, that's
100%.
pretty cool.
It all works over a basic gigabit network. So, I mean,
Okay.
if you go any less than that, obviously you're going to start running into problems.
Yes.
I mean, the exercise is you can't put that much water through that much pipe.
Yes, absolutely.
It's going to be difficult.
Absolutely, yes.
So what we say in South Africa is a buffer. So it's going to start buffering and then pushing
And
the
then push it through.
yeah.
Okay, well, we definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
So how does HD Base T fall into this?
So HD Base T is obviously one of the cameras that we do as well. So that's a little bit of a different format. So HD Base T for us would be more towards, again, the AV side of it. You can do it in houses of worship as well. If you want to get that cable max about a 70 meter run, and that will allow you to bring, again, a single cat cable through to your control system or whatever the case is with one of our little receiver boxes.
Okay.
So HDMI extender receiver boxes. And the cat would come in there, you'd power up the box, which didn't in turn power up the camera. It will obviously bring your video back into the box, converts to HDMI into your switcher again. And you can also have RS-232 running through that HD Base T connection for control of the
Yes,
camera
that's
as well.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those cameras have a IP connection on them as well for control and streaming capabilities and all that, and an audio input as well. So you can do all of that on the camera as well.
Wonderful. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question as well with regards to USB 2 and USB 3. Okay. Why do some cameras come with a USB 2 or a USB 3 or both? Okay. And what are the benefits of these two technologies, USB 2 and USB 3?
So it's just the difference, probably more in terms of the speed and resolution that it can produce.
Okay.
So USB 2, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is up to about 400 megabits per second data transfer
Okay.
to and from. And on our USB 2 cameras, you can get up to 1080p 30 frames per second on that stream. Okay.
Okay.
Where you go to USB 3, that'll allow you to do a 1080p 60, which is from our cameras,
Yes.
and more, because a USB 3 connection goes up to about a 3 gig data transfer rate.
Oh, okay.
So you can push a lot more there. A USB 3, in terms of pretty static cameras, but it's a static, but it's got auto framing in it, which is called our Holla.
Yes. the Holla.
That has a USB 3 connection in it. So that brings power into the camera, and then a USB 3 connection, which is a 4K camera, auto framing. So it has the capabilities of pushing that speed and that data transfer back to your PC and whatever the case is.
right.
It's
Okay.
got a microphone built in, so it's doing a full duplex almost in terms of to and from information. Whereas the USB 2 connection is somewhat slower.
Okay, so it's bandwidth.
Yeah,
That's
it's more
basically
kind
what
of a
it is.
bandwidth type
Bandwidth kind of
yeah,
thing.
kind of
Okay,
issue.
that makes perfect
So
sense.
a lot of the newer cameras are 4K res cameras,
Yes.
and so the Holla, which is a static auto framing camera, and then lastly on our list is the 4K 12x 4K camera. Okay, and that has a USB 3 connection as well, which allows you to
Nice.
bring it into your laptop, and it has an HDMI output, which will obviously give you 4K onto a
Nice.
monitor or whatever the case
So
is.
that leads me to the next question. So if we have USB 2 and USB 3, what's HDMI for then?
It's becoming something of a less used format, but you still got the HDMI coming back to a monitor or a projector or to a switcher or whatever the case
So that
is.
could go to like a local
Yeah,
monitor.
local monitor, whatever the
Okay.
case is. You're obviously extending HDMI over distances that you couldn't really do on USB 2 or
Yes.
USB 3. Again, that's changing. USB 2, you can do up to 50, 60, 70 meters. USB 3, a little bit less. They're still trying to work that out. I mean, we've got USB extender cables that we've got in our Alfatron range that we use with the cameras.
And they
up
work
to
really well.
up to a 15 meter on USB 3 as well as USB 2. And then Something new that's coming for our Alfatron range is a USB 2 extender over CAT, which will be about a 50-meter extension on CAT, which is
Sure.
great.
That gets
So
over that limitation. That cable.
it almost gets over that HDMI 70 or 100-meter
yes.
sort of limitation per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the new stuff that's coming coming around a lot lately, where the HDMI extensions are getting further.
Yes.
You're getting to the AV over IP side, which still relies on HDMI to give you the picture to the monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no USB involved there. It's just network cabling and HDMI cables. So there's still relevance in terms of the HDMI running around.
Ah,
So
fantastic.
so definitely.
Okay, so I also want to find out quickly. I myself personally don't know much about SDI and NDI. So can you sort of get us clued up? As I know you did touch on it a little bit early on in the show, but I'd really like to sort of get to the nitty-gritties of SDI and NDI.
Okay.
Can you explain what that is to us?
Okay, so look, I mean, difference between NDI and SDI fundamental is cable versus, well, coax cable versus network cable. So SDI cable is normal RJ6U cable,
Okay.
you know, like your
Standard TV
satellite
aerial cable kind of thing.
satellite cable.
Satellite cable, right?
Obviously a little bit better quality, obviously because there's a lot more running down the cable kind of thing, with a BNC connector on the unit, whereas NDI is a network cable.
Okay.
Probably Cat6 upwards because of the amount of data on the stream or whatever the case is. And I mean, yeah, in terms of the video formats, they can pretty much do the same. So if you've got NDI or SDI, they can do the same formats on our cameras.
Okay.
NDI can go further. It can go to 4K. SDI can do the same. I think it's either 6G or 12G connection. But then you've got a couple more cables and all that kind of stuff. Whereas on NDI side, you still just got a Cat6 that can allow you to do all of that
Everything.
kind of speeds and control everything like that.
Video, audio, the whole toot.
Yeah. The other big difference is, again, where you're coming back to the control side of it. So now, on an NDI camera, I've got one cable that allows it to power up the camera. It gives you the video feedback to wherever you need it to be. And you got control over that same cable via our IP controller or via an application or whatever the case is. Whereas on an SDI camera, you've got SDI bringing the video back. Then you've got another cable to run power, because they're PoE cameras, over the network cable, which allows you to do power and then obviously the control of the camera as well. So you've got two cables instead of one. So there's the kind of differences on that side as well. Both of them have the ability, or all of the cameras that have network connection have the ability to do local streaming on it as well. So by rights, you could stream directly from the camera as we speak now to the YouTube channel that we're busy doing at the moment.
Yes, Michael and I did a show on that previously.
Yeah, so we could have brought the mixing desk in that Mike at the back's got.
Yep.
Brought that into the camera. Not necessarily this camera doesn't have an audio input, but an SDI or an NDI has that ability. And straight from the camera's interface, you can go and set up your YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or whatever the case, stream directly on the camera.
To the camera.
Yeah. So you got your mic there. That's kind of more towards the gaming kind of guys. So you got this kind of camera. You know, you always see the guys, the gaming camera up at the top here. You got a microphone, and the guys are doing their games or whatever the case is, and they're overlaying on a software, broadcast software, and that ability is available straight away from the camera itself.
From the camera itself.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So yeah, quite a bit of
really
stuff.
Cool. Okay, so I just want to also take a little step back as well. You mentioned earlier about NDI HX. Okay, so tell us more about that, because that sounds very exciting.
So I mean, it's quite simple. So you got NDI, which is the standard, the format, and then NDI HX, which they've now taken into these type of environments, and it's a compressed form of the original bandwidth or data transfer.
Yes.
Brought it into a H.264 stream, brought the bandwidth down. It allows you to bring more NDI products onto one network.
Oh, right.
So now on a gigabit network, basically you can run 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras, all on NDI all on Ethernet cables straight into PoE injected network switches, and away you go. You don't have to have any other cables available for that. So I mean, if you want to go and sort of go into full detail on the NDI HX, you can go to their website, definitely.
Okay.
We speak to guys all the time, and if they want more information, go to the NDI website. I think we can post it into our chat as well.
Yeah, we'll put that in the comments for you guys.
Yeah, and you can go and read up on it. It's amazing. They've just released NDR 5, which is apparently a world changer. There's a lot of new stuff happening in there, and just the NDR platform has grown massively. So, to give you an example, one of the softwares we use is OBS. You've got an NDR plugin into OBS.
Oh,
So we
yes.
can now bring
Okay.
our NDR cable into the network switch, PCs in the network switch. You can bring that NDR camera into the OBS software via that plugin. And then there's other softwares that you can also bring into these broadcast softwares, Pro Presenter or Adobe Suite or anything like that. So any
Yes.
presentations or whatever the case is, it doesn't matter what it is. They have also NDR plugins, so it's all just over the network, and you just bring them all into the broadcast and do whatever you
Sure.
need to do. So
easy.
NDR is a big changer. One of the guys that we have been certified, not necessarily from a camera point of view in terms of Ethernet, because it don't need certification in that sense,
Okay.
but the NDR side and then the AV over IP stuff that we do is the guys from Netgear. So they've just launched a whole lot of new AV switches, and they have NDI presets or NDI,
Wow.
what do you call them, like little setups, and it's got everything in it, so it knows exactly what it needs to do. It's all set up correctly inside their switches. So
That's very clever.
so
That's really clever.
a lot of guys are going towards that.
Okay. All right. So you also touched lightly a little earlier about controlling the cameras. So besides the supplied remote control in the box for these cameras, we do a really good IP controller. Okay. So can you get into that for us a little bit, Spencer?
Yeah, so the IP controller, it's nice, very intuitive, not easy, not difficult to understand. Little white silicone buttons on the unit, so when you press the button, it would light up green, so you know where you are.
Oh, nice.
And it allows you to do 4 quick cameras, and then obviously controlling over IP, you can do up to 250 odd cameras on one controller, because you can recall and you can bring up the cameras as you want. You can set up presets on the cameras, or each of them, the speeds, the white balance, the exposure settings, whatever the case is, you can do all of that all from this controller.
Wow, that is pretty cool.
And it allows the guy to sit and manipulate what's happening in the conference or in the church sermon or whatever the case is, and move the presets to where they want it and whatever the case is. The nice thing with it is you don't have a guy standing there with a remote control,
Yeah, can you imagine?
first of all. And secondly, they go and set up those presets before the time.
Yes.
So you don't have a guy actually sitting there and the sort of somebody's telling him pan left, pan right, or whatever the case is. He's got presets set up. So he knows that choir singing, go to preset 1. Lady playing the piano, go to preset 2, whatever the case is. Go to a white preset for the crowd, or whatever, or the audience. So it's quite cool.
Cool. So presets are basically just stored positions
Yeah.
of the camera itself for quick access kind of thing.
Not even positions, also lighting changes, aperture changes, iris changes, whatever. So, I mean, you could have, for example, I mean, it's not really specific, but you could have the camera having a certain preset that you would know that you would use in the morning, because there's a lot of sun coming into the room or whatever the case is. And so you'd have different settings set up on the camera.
Oh, right. So it's not
Yeah.
just position of the camera.
Yeah.
It's also like white balance
Yeah.
and this and that.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much the thing is open, the shutter is open,
it's
closed,
zoomed and
whatever
all
the
that kind
case
of
is.
thing. Okay.
And then one for afternoon, one for evening, because now you've got room lights opposed to natural light.
light, yeah.
So it changes all the time.
that
So
is
you
fantastic.
can't really document that too much in terms of actually putting it down, going, so this is the settings for low light, high light, medium light, whatever the case is. It's almost environment
Specific.
specific.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That makes perfect
I
sense.
mean, we've set this up for our room, but we could take this, literally move it out of here into our boardroom, which is a completely different lighting, and it'll look different.
Yes.
You know, so the quality will look the same, but then it might be more yellow, it might be more white, it might be more blue. It doesn't, you don't know.
Okay, that's
So, yeah.
interesting because I always thought that the presets were just the position of the camera. I didn't know that there was a lot more
No,
involved
there's
to
other,
that.
there's other stuff. So
That is pretty
position
cool.
of cameras. So I mean, if you take a 30x, preset 1 is looking at the guy that's standing in the front, the presenter, and sort of chest high in his head. Preset 2 could be now he's moving out of the presentation stand and walking up and down the stage. So then you have to get bigger. So you're zooming and moving. So it's a whole lot involved there.
Sure, makes life a lot
So
easier, right?
yeah. In terms of the control,
Yes.
we also have an RS controller. So
Oh,
even
yes,
though
tell
we
us
have the
about that.
IP controller, there's a RS version as well. So
Okay.
RS232 or RS485 and 422.
Oh, right.
So all the
okay.
different formats. And that's a hardwired connection. So yeah. So that's even more basic than the IP controller because there's not much more that you need to set up there. Username and password and maybe some baud rates and whatever the case is. So it's not much. And allows you to do pretty much the same thing. In terms of the Visca side of it, we can control up to 7 cameras because that's the Visca standard.
Yes.
And there's something else called Palco D or Palco P, which allows you a little bit more cameras that you can set up as well.
Okay.
On the IP controller, you also have the ability to plug in RS232 as well. But then you would just need to change the mode of what the controller
so it
does.
knows where to send the commands.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting.
So
That's very
I
interesting.
know a lot of guys have purchased the IP controller having 232 cameras still in the environment, working with that IP controller because the next budget that comes in, they're going to change to IP cameras, for example.
Yes.
And then he's already got the controller, so you don't need to buy a controller and IP cameras. So, yeah.
Oh, great. What a
So,
way to
yeah,
save some
they
bucks
do.
for now.
Do it a little bit differently every time. Depends on, again, the environment and who's doing what. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, well, guys, what an interesting episode. Hope we managed to kind of answer any sort of questions you may have. If you do have questions, though, you are welcome to pop them below there in the comment section, and we will gladly answer them as soon as we can.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us today on our very first episode of Alfatron Chats. It was an absolute pleasure to be with you guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss new content come
Yeah,
out.
hit the bell. Hit the
Hit
bell.
that bell, guys, please.
Or you can do alphatronelectronics.com.
Yes, I was
As
getting
well.
to that. Thanks,
Yeah.
Spencer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I'm blushing, right? I can feel it. But guys, again, thank you so much for joining us. Spencer, thank you very much for joining me in
pleasure.
studio today. An absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Have
See
a
you
good
soon.
day. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.